Oh, you are live. I thought it was going to do the countdown. No countdown for you. Hello, 0 people. So, thank you very much. 7 people. Hello. Thank you very much for your flexibility. I will tell you what happened today. So, I found out, I think today or yesterday, that my favorite salsa band in Toronto, which hasn't played together for a year and a half, and it's led by a Black woman, was playing tonight for 2 hours. And I was like, you know what? I have to go and just dance and enjoy myself. And we're just going to do that. So that is what I did. So thank you for your flexibility and letting me go and do that, and for also being back here for the slow read. So that's wonderful. So for people who are new, my name is Injeri. I am ONYX Pages. ONYX Pages is I. Yeah, it's Yay for Dancing. Oh, so Regina Renee, are you done worship? Because I know you have worship on Fridays. So anyway, super excited that you're all here. Thank you. And I just finished, I'm where I'm supposed to be. So I finished chapter 3, and I have thoughts. As you can see, I've got thoughts. I haven't fully bedazzled. Hey, Sherry. Okay, so where are we supposed to be right now? Well, first of all, live your best life and be wherever the fuck you need to be. But in terms of where you should be in terms of the reading, we said that we were going to, hey, Nikita, we said that we were going to start at chapter 4 today and try to get through 4, 5, and 6 so that we can all like crescendo together. So I'm going to do what I did last time, which is I am going to invite anybody who wants to join me right now on camera through StreamYard. So please consider joining. Those of you who were here last week will know that it's fun. Last time Maria joined us, and so did, what was her name? Jacqueline? Something with a J. And it was really great. So I'm going to copy the StreamYard link. I will put it in the comments. And as long as you're reading, Patternmaster, and as long as you are positive and kind and engaged, I would definitely love for you to join me. And we're just going to do, yes, put on bottom, Sherry. I'm so glad you're joining. So what are we going to do? We're just going to do what we usually do, right? We're going to do some sprints, probably longer ones, tonight to try and get through the 3 chapters. And we'll talk in between. If you are new to the slow read, we might do a little bit of getting to know you. But just like, it's going to be chill. You'll be safer. So consider joining me live. And all you got to do is cut and paste that link into your browser, and then you will show up in the backstage, and then I will let you in, and it will be great. So Catherine, Sherry, Alicia, Nikita, Geraldine, Regina Renee, you are all invited to join. Sarah, Tamara, you're all invited to join. Kim, the StreamYard can accommodate up to 10 people. So frankly, we could all be on. Like, yeah. Okay. So before we get into our first, hey, Jersey fam, you are invited to join. Please join. Okay, so before we actually get into, oh, thank you, Nikita. I appreciate that. Oh, I should let's just first do our romper room thing. You can YouTube if you don't know what romper room is. No judgment, but it was also like one of my favorite children's shows back in the day because I was born in a decade. Hi, Sarah. Hello, Tamara. Hi, Regina Renee. Yes, yay for dancing. Hello, Alicia. Sarah again. Yeah, dancing was great. I had a lot of fun. Hey, Kim. And Catherine and Sherry and Alicia and Nikita. And yes, good. Oh, good. So you're right at chapter 4. Great. Hey, Geraldine. And Geraldine, I watched the replay and it was just really nice to hear your thoughts because you were in Tati's group from Clay's Arc. And it was really nice to be like, oh, this is the same Geraldine. I think it's the same Geraldine. So that was great. Oh, you have evening? Okay. So we have you for 1 hour. So do you want to join us for 1 hour, Regina Renee? That would be great. I would love that. Okay, putting on clothes is great. Jersey Femme, feel free to join in if you'd like. You need to rest up. Okay, well, we'll see you on Sunday. Sexy, beautiful 19. Tell it. Hello. Okay. Hello. Tom, I think. Tom. And by the way, are you the person who mentioned in the very first slow read that you knew Octavia E. Butler, that you were friends, or are you a different Tom or Tim? I think it's Tom. Okay. All right. So just to catch people up to where we are for people who are watching the replay, we read chapters 1, 2, and 3. So if you're here watching the replay, then hopefully you've read chapters 1, 2, and 3. Teray is now situated. Hello, Sherry. Teray is situated in Corancie's house. And he is, I'm going to add you to the screen. Hello. And he is, hey, I love your glasses. So Teray is now in, and feel free to like add to the synopsis because like me and synopses, right? So right now, Teray is in Corancie's house. Teray has 1 year to kind of figure out whether he's going to allow Corancie to control him. And the reason why Corancie wants to control him is because Corancie wants to be the Patternmaster, because Raelle is dying. And when Raelle dies, Raelle is the current Patternmaster. When Raelle dies, there needs to be another Patternmaster. And Corancie and Teray are brothers, full brothers. And so they are next in line potentially to be the Patternmaster. And they have to, you know, they could potentially, like they would have to, one would have to kill the other in order to be the next Patternmaster because of the way they're wired. But if Corancie can just control Teray, then there don't need to be any killing. But Teray is kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I like that. So I'm going to take some time to think about it. And while he's taking that time, he is responsible for all the quote unquote mutes in the house. And he's just trying to figure out how to manage that, which includes things like learning more about how the mutes have been treated in the house. In this last chapter, in chapter 3, we learn a lot about the mute abuse. And he meets a healer, which is really interesting. There's a lot of talk about healing. There are a lot more discussion about women as well in chapter 3, which I preferred and liked. And toward the end of chapter 3, he's like, maybe I should run away and go to Forsyth, and maybe I should try and get the Patternmaster to teach me things, or his journeymen or whatever, journey people to teach me things so that I might be strong enough to maybe launch an attack against Corancie. I don't know. What should I do? So he's learning and doing all of these things and trying to figure out what he's going to do. Meanwhile, Iray has said, look, you gave me up. You did the very thing you said you would never do. So now I'm here in the house trying to figure myself out, trying to be a fake wife to Corancie, or maybe not. And yes, Teray has taken on a companion, although she seems to just kind of not be that significant. So yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at the end of chapter 3. Sherry, did I misstate or miss anything? And also, hi.
Hey, you can hear me all right?
I can.
All right, cool. I'm using my little headphone thing, so we don't know how good they work. I think you summed it up quite well. I am realizing that like I didn't quite finish chapter 3 yet. So when you were like,
I'm sorry.
You explained it. No, it's fine. I'm almost there. So it's just like I got all the way up through the like mute abuse and whatnot. And so it's just like that last little part of him being like, I'm about to run away. And I looked and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not quite there, but I'm close. I was trying to catch up today.
Okay.
I think that's a great synopsis. It's pretty much what's happening. I would point out that the conflict for Teray is like the way he views what's happening is like he has two choices right now. It's either he's like physically a slave or mentally a slave. So he feels like those are his choices. Mm-hmm. And so I think when I was reading, I was hearing him say, try to like weigh which one was worse. And he does have this like responsibility to this woman who is his wife or was until he has now become an outsider, which there was a point where people were like, oh, you think of them as slaves? I'm like, yeah, bruh. The more I'm hearing about the laws, he's not far off at all with the way he is kind of internalizing these positions. So I think that's an interesting like conflict that he has going on. And yeah, so I'm like, I don't know if we're doing questions yet or if we're mostly reading, but I think I was like,
go for it, Sherry.
You all want to choose which one of those you would like if you were in his position that day when he woke up and went to go have breakfast with him. He didn't know he was having breakfast, but whatever, they had breakfast and he kind of laid it out for him what was going on. What would you have done in that situation? Do you view this differently than him?
Like what choice would you have made if you had to choose between the options that Karanti gave?
Yeah, like if you were Teray sitting at that breakfast table with him.
Also, that breakfast was creepy. Go on.
It was creepy. I was like, also, why are you only in a robe? You just I'm coming. Like, get dressed. Put on some bottoms. But anyway.
I will say that like my choice would have been whatever would allow me to buy time and to understand what was going on around me so that I could make the most informed choice. So I don't know that my choice would be that much different from his choice, from Teray's choice. But yeah, let me take this moment to say hello to Sarah. This is your first time joining us on the Soul Read. So yes, feel free to introduce yourself. Well, I guess I should like Sherry introduce yourself too, because like we're friends and I know you. Maybe others don't. I don't know.
I was like, I've been on here before. Yo, I've been on here before, so I'm like, of course. But I wasn't on during the Survivor read along because I need to go back and read that one. But so it's been a little minute since we saw me on ONYX Pages. I'm Sherry. I am from the YouTube channel Obsidian Texts and Tangents, and I'm very obsessed with Octavia Butler and am obsessed with this slow read and also in Jerry.
It's a mutual obsession. Sarah, hi. So nice to see you.
You
Welcome.
too. I think we all are obsessed with Jerry. I think everyone in the comment section can agree.
It's a mutual obsession. I feel like it's like family dinner. It's great with a book and no food. It's great. So you want to tell folks a little bit about who you are, because I think like your profession lends itself so amazingly to this series, and I just want the masses to know about this.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm an art therapist. I've studied art therapy. I'm an art therapist, but I worked as we had a lot of Syrian people come here during the war, so I worked a lot with Syrian teenagers. Yeah, and I'm enjoying this book.
Okay, great. So do you want to? So I think for people in the chat, I would love to know, where are you right now in your reading? So where are you right now? So if you can all share that in the chat. And then also, this live show, first of all, on Sunday is going to be amazing. I'm so excited about it. The more I think about it, the more excited I get, because we are at a very powerful juncture in our slow reading adventure together. We're finishing a whole series. We will have finished 6 books. It's like a really, really big deal. And because of the weirdo publication order versus writing order versus other orders, that the Patternist series was written in, it's almost like the production of the series in and of itself was its own pattern. So if you think about it in terms of, when did Octavia E. Butler get the ideas to write the book, to each of the books, versus what did she think of each of the books, versus when did those books get published? Each question will lead you to a very different order, a very different pattern. And I feel like that in and of itself is a really interesting thing to explore. But it's just amazing. So I'm just wondering for folks. So let's see what people are saying. We're obsessed with you too, Fatih. Thank you for being here. Hello, Cynthia Louise. Nice to see you. So chapter 4, start of chapter 4. Okay. So we're all obeying the order, the law. Tamara, explain yourself. I'm just kidding. You're fine. We're good. We're good. Okay. So yes. And truth be told, I binged tonight so that I could be at the beginning of chapter 4. So it's good to be wherever you're at. Okay, so I want to do something a little different before we start our next sprint. So I'm thinking we should start with a half an hour sprint. I think that's healthy and good. I'm wondering, Sherry and Sarah, do you want, from a reading with purpose perspective, I would love to ask a question now instead of after the reading, to see if we might read purposefully for the next half an hour sprint, and then just share our answers afterwards. So do one of you have a question you might want us to read with, so that we're kind of experiencing the story, but also thinking about a theme or a question?
I think you've already given us the idea of patterns. What are the patterns that we're seeing in this book already that has been mirrored or has been presented to us before in the past books?
Okay.
So themes or characters maybe that are similar.
Does that sound good to you, Sherry?
Mm-hmm.
So what patterns or themes are we seeing in Patternmaster so far?
Because I feel like there is a purpose. The repeating and of this struggle that keeps happening. I think there is a purpose to it. So I think it will be interesting if we discuss the themes or patterns.
Okay, I love that question. Okay, so the goal is, folks, while you're reading for the next half an hour, just keep this question close to your chest, close to your heart, close to your brains, and then we will see where we're at. So this is, let me find a 30-minute sprint, 30-minute timer, tried and true, and share the screen. "30 minutes will be good." Are you guys seeing it? Okay, cool. All right, everyone. Happy reading. See you in half an hour. Okay. So for those that was half an hour. For those in the chat, you've got that question up. Hopefully you read with it. So a la Sarah, what patterns or themes are we seeing in the Patternmaster so far that we've seen in other books in the series? So please, reflecting on what you've just read, please put that in the chat. So I guess before we get, and also when you're commenting in the chat, just say where you are right now. So I've just finished chapter 4. So I'm liking the half an hour. It just feels like I could do a chapter every half an hour. That's a thing that could happen in my life. So that's great. So what are we just lost Sarah. Maybe she'll come back. Maybe she won't. Sarah, you're awesome. If you don't come back, thank you for joining. And anybody else, if you're interested in coming on, I will put the link in the chat and you are welcome to, there she is. You are welcome to join us and chat. So Sarah and Sherry, do you want to answer the question?
Sarah, you can go first.
I think to me, there is hierarchy and domination, and that duality between being dominated or submitting to and wanting to dominate, that's very, it's like a survival instinct almost. That's what got my attention.
Mm-hmm. And how far did you get this half hour? By Regina.
The 4th. And I'll finish the 4th chapter because I started at the 2nd.
Okay. Sherry?
I also finished the 4th chapter, so we're all like at the same spot.
Amazing.
I think it's very interesting that these two kind of dynamics, kind of along what Sarah was saying, have reappeared in every one of these books. Like, there's been this individual who's very power hungry, who's very much on board with this whole like process. Even like if we go all the way back to Doro, like it's this personality exists, and then there's someone else who's also quite powerful, but they just trying to live their life. They just like, I somehow am now entangled in your ambitions, and in some way either you have this some sort of desire to have me a part of that. You also feel threatened by me in some way because I can be your equal, but I'm also not interested in usurping you because I have no interest in what you're doing. But like, I don't know. I've yet to see these people that person just get to live their life though. So we'll see what happens. But that's the most like obvious pattern kind of theme that I see across the books and whatnot.
I feel something similar, but just thinking about what the two of you are saying, if we look at the power struggles and the power relationships, the power dances in each of the books, like in Wild Seed, we had Anyanwu and Doro, right? In Mind of My Mind, we had Mary and Doro, right? And then and then it gets fuzzy for me. So in Clay's arc, who would you say we had? It's kind of hard with the dual timelines.
Yeah, it's kind of hard with the dual timelines. I think I think in the like earlier timeline, so the one that we're flashing back to in Clay's arc.
With the physician?
Yeah.
The doctor.
No, with the actual astronaut person who had one. So like that's because The timeline is with the physician.
Eli Doyle.
Eli. I think Eli is actually like, you know, I'm not really trying to take over the world or anything. I'm just trying to live my life, but I have this situation is happening. So I'm just trying to keep it as contained as possible. And so it's kind of, and I think that like the power struggle in that is actually probably the alien life form. Like in that earlier like timeline where it's like just him, and then when you go to the later timeline of which is like the main timeline in Clay's arc, you have the physician and his 2 kids, and then you have Eli and his people. And I actually think in their minds, both groups are just like, we both just want to live our lives, but they're competing, and Eli was hard-headed. But I digress about that part. So I don't know, it's not as obvious in the way that those two interact with each other around the whole like power dynamics, but definitely the conflict of like, we just trying to live our life, and I've somehow become wrapped up into your whole situation.
And in a way, it's also a conflict of ideology. What is the right way to live? What is the right path? And why is my way better than your way? While we are all trying to just survive. So I think it's also really about survival and instinct.
And what is freedom too? Because like that was the whole thing with Eli, was like, I'm not trying to stay here. Like if I survive, even if I survive, I don't want to become part of this. Like I didn't have any choice in this. Like this is not freedom. But it was, and then, or not Eli, the physician. I can't remember what his name is. But the dad, I'll have to look. But then Eli,
but I could be wrong, or with a G or a D. Anyway,
I have to look. But
Blake Mason.
Blake,
that was definitely it.
I'm not Gabriel.
Yeah, but and then Eli being like, he has this consciousness around not wanting it to actually expand to the entire world. And like trying to have freedom in a very confined as he can. So and then Doro and Anyan, we go all the way back to them. That was very much about like, he was very much trying. She was very much like, I've been free for centuries. And he was very much like, control now. No freedom. He was like, you could of course do what I want you to do in this box. That's freedom enough for you. And the same thing with like Marianne Doro. He definitely did not want her to usurp him.
I think also it's really surprising.
Like breeding her to be the person she was. It was very interesting.
I think it's surprising how that Doro-esqueness, that way Doro would solve problems, that has lived through the generations, and it's still very present in even this book.
Very present. The breeding, the like, the what's the word? I'm gonna use discrimination, but it's more than that, around the people who are
oppression,
not in group. Yeah, like the oppression for the people who are not in group. And yeah, it makes sense, right? Because like everything we're seeing now is built on that foundation. And so it's like, yeah, that is how we get here. I can see that that's how we get here, especially within the like pattern structure. But it does super suck a lot.
And so Survivor, we definitely had like the Tekon and the Gekon, Garkon, the Garkon and the Tekon, and then the missionaries, and then Alana. So there was like, I feel like in that book, we weren't dealing with this singular powerful individual, but more so tensions between different communities and leadership styles, and different desires to control and dominate. So that felt like, that kind of felt a little bit different, because we didn't have a kind of like, we kind of had a figurehead in what's his name, Natak, I think, but not exactly in the same way. He was more like a leader as opposed to, well, he didn't feel like an all-encompassing, I can control everyone kind of character. And so now we have a battle for the pattern, so Real is going to die and at some point there's a battle. Real has made an overture. And so that's really interesting. But I'm really intrigued by what you guys are saying, because there's a part of me that's like, well, Doro, like, I'm thinking about transgenerational trauma and how Doro sowed the seeds for generations upon generations of trauma, and that the example that he set for community, that distortion of power and community, continues, and it haunts everyone else. And interestingly, like, Teray doesn't have aspirations, as you were, I think, hinting at, Sherry. Like, he doesn't really have aspirations like Karansi does, but he still understands that there's a role he might need to play. And I wonder if there's going to be a scene between Real and Karansi, no, Real and Teray, in which Real is going to say, okay, so you need to win the pattern because Karansi is going to just cause a lot of problems. So here's what you have to be prepared to do. But that, what you were talking about, Sherry, in terms of the themes around emancipation, like, I think one of the questions that all the books ask is like, what is freedom? What is emancipation? What's the price you're willing to pay for it? And if you can't get that, what can you do if you have the next best thing, or the next best thing, or the next best thing? Like, can you eke out a sense of existence for you? And I remember, I think it was Adrienne Marie Brown, I think, who was saying, I know a lot of people are saying that this particular historical moment feels like Parable of the Sower, but I actually feel like it's more like the Patternist series than it is Parable of the Sower. Like, if you actually look at what's happening in the world, there are all sorts of different forms of really shitty domination that we get to choose from. And, it's not like any of the answers are freedom and emancipation. It's all oppression. It's like, which flavor of oppression do you want? Do you want like dark cherry? Do you want like ginger beer? Like, what, orange crush? Like, what kind of domination do you want? Because like, there's no domination free drink today. So I think
it makes it very heavy, very bleak, I think, in a way. And that's what makes it heavy to me.
Yeah. And I think, Octavia E. Butler was very good at saying like, oh, by the way, like, there's no happy ending, right? Like, I'll tell you that just from the beginning. Like, I'm writing this because we have to contend with a bunch of awful answers and options, because that's what we made for ourselves. And that doesn't mean you can't have moments of joy, but it means that if you're going to spend your time waiting, like waiting for the prince to, get the slipper and find the girl, like, that's not what we're doing here. That's not the assignment. Let's see what others have to say. So, Tamara, there's always a Dora type character who either collects people, yes, who either collects people or powers to gain complete domination, finishing.
I think it's people and powers. Like, I've not seen it in this series, and I didn't read Survivor yet. But other than that, like, no one was like either or. It was people and powers.
Yeah. Bye, Regina Renee. Always lovely to have you. Maria, you're obviously welcome to join again. So a few pages into chapter 5, so much repeated oppression and exploitation of folks for power and ego and from a sense of entitlement. Yes, for sure. Yeah, the exploit and the ease in the exploitation. Like, that's the thing. Her writing is so good that you don't realize that you're normalizing slavery. Like, it's just like,
I feel it when I be reading it, but I hear what you're saying, Injiri, but I definitely feel it when I'm reading it. It makes me very uncomfortable.
I was just like, oh, like the word mute is so like kind of benign, but Bree's voice is in my head around like, we need to remember that mute is a euphemism for the N-word, for a bunch of other like terms. And so I know it's got one syllable and it's cute and it rhymes with cute, but it's mute is not cute, right? So there's that.
It's even hard for me to say. I found myself trying to describe those people without using that word.
Yes.
It was very interesting because I found it very interesting. There's a part where Teray is saying that he doesn't like to really have to control them, that they can think for themselves if you just let them. And I was like, yeah, because that's the way the world was working before the pattern. And so it was very to be this moment of being like, y'all at this point in the generations haven't experienced a life where the pattern and pattern masters weren't controlling people.
Yeah.
For just any old no reason. Like, let them people garden because they like to garden. Anyways. I noticed that when it was said, and I just had a real moment when I read it earlier today. And I was just like, and yes, because these are regular people without superpowers, basically.
Yes.
In a way, the word pattern could be another word for the word privilege.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But it's interesting because it was a privilege, built out of those who were unprivileged originally. Like Doro breeded these people who were the outcasts of society. And then like he just breeded himself right into this is what happened. And now if you're not gifted in this way, then it's like you're less than a person. You're not a person. You're property.
Yeah. Maria says, "Ooh, I didn't think of that, but totally see. Doro killed his whole family when he came into his power, and now it's expected that those that take the pattern kill their closest." Oh, right. I'd forgotten about that origin story. It was funny because it was like the shock of it, right? Like he didn't know what he was doing. He was a kid or a teenager. And we're just like, oh my God, I'm jumping into my father. Oh my God, everybody's dead. Whoa, there's a thing I can do.
Yeah. And then he's like, I blacked out. And then my whole village was gone. Yeah. And I came to, and I was just in this random dude. And I was like, yo, that sounds like the most traumatic thing ever. But that comment also reminds me to talk about what I've really enjoyed, which is how the prologue set us up. And then it goes from the prologue and them having this like kind of more intimate conversation. And then like in the prologue, you're like, wait, hold on, that's his sister? Wait, hold on, he killed his other siblings? And she's like, nah, I don't even want to fight you. And she's like, my kids, like, they don't have to be this way. And he's like, you don't think they're going to be this way? They all my kids. And then she's like, man, but there's another way. And then bam, cannon comes through the wall, right? And then we seemingly get dropped into some completely different people, right? So when I realized that these were the children, I was like, oh, these are the two kids they were talking about originally. And I've been wondering this whole time, what their lives would have been like had their mother lived.
Well,
I'm just throwing that out there because that's the thing I've literally been thinking about all day.
I think that's an excellent question. Maybe even for Sunday, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what would their lives have been like if they're Jancy? Is that her name? If the mother lived, right? That's yeah. Jersey fam, you're also welcome to join us. Link is in the comments, so please do. You have to step away and come back for Flavors of Domination. Yes, your favorite soft drink.
Orange Crush, ginger
Yes.
beer.
And also, I liked that there is a thread that connects Laro, the artist's gifts, to Jan's talents from Mind in My Mind. Right.
Yes. I got really excited when I saw that, and I was like, "Dang, that practice has really evolved." And she wasn't even. She kind of started doing that very reluctantly.
Yes, that's amazing. You're so
And then
right.
Sarah, when you said you were an art therapist, oh, I was sorry. When Sarah said she was an art therapist, that's when I got excited. I was like, I feel like there's connection there in my brain.
For sure. Tamara, you're also welcome to join us if you want. I mean, everybody's welcome to join us, but just let people know. And then you just did your hair, girl. Not coming on camera tonight. That's fine. I mean, you're free because none of us are Doro or Karanci or anybody. It's good. It's okay. Yes. Okay. We're gonna do another. May I make an executive decision and say that we're doing another half an hour?
Sweet. Maybe I can get through another chapter.
All right. Let us reset and then share screen and then happy reading. So, for those in the chat, where are you at? And we're going to do it a little bit differently. For those in the chat, please come up with a question that you would like us to discuss, Sherry, Sarah, and I. So please come up with a question and also let us know where you're at. And in the meantime, Sherry and Sarah, what are your thoughts? I finished chapter 5. I'm intrigued. You're muted, Sarah. You're muted, Sherry.
Oops. I'm about to finish 5, and I think it's intense because how normal is it to kill people? It's like
Very.
because it happened to a couple of the characters that in a moment of rage or in a moment of self-defense that something happened.
Yep.
But I'm thinking, I don't think I've ever hit someone. So going beyond that and killing someone is I just thought about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that made me think of something, and I'm glad I remembered it again. So this is from a podcast. This is not what the podcast was about, but one of the hosts was saying how she very intentionally doesn't let her boys, she has like 4 young boys. She doesn't let her boys play games that are above the age range that they are. And they were specifically talking about, what's that one game that people be playing a lot and it's making a lot of money apparently?
Fortnite, Minecraft.
Yes, Fortnite. I could not think of Fortnite, which is I think like 14 plus or something, but it's like it's building stuff and fighting. And her kid was like 8 when it came out, and she's like, no, would not let him play it because she was saying how it's so. I can't remember the other thing she was talking about. Oh, they were talking about many aside, but I'm gonna bring it back real quick. They were talking about there's the DC Comics. There's this new like Harley Quinn offsuit. Harley Quinn is the main character, and like it's a bunch of villains. So the writers are able to do a lot of things that they would normally do. In this last season, apparently there's some kind of like sex scenes or something happening with Harley Quinn and Batman. And initially, the way they wanted to shoot it was that you could see that Batman was about to perform cunnilingus, but on the table it was like no, he can't do that. We sell toys, but you can have Harley Quinn straight bashing mofo's heads in, right? So it's this idea that in our society that violence is child's play. That like murder is child's play.
In Europe, it's like the opposite, because here you can have naked people on TV any time of the day. Sex is an open subject to be talked about whenever, but violence is not on TV, restricted times. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's interesting that it's different.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I wanted to say is, because I'm assuming when you were mentioning that you were kind of thinking of in chapter 5 when Teray kills the Clay's Arcs people, right? But then it's like they're not thinking of each other as people, right? Because like all the way up until he's had this one conversation with the one, which that was an interesting moment, and I kind of see the wheels start turning in his brain. But they haven't been real to him, and definitely not at all like possessing people qualities, right? They don't even acknowledge the non-patternist people as people, really. And so there's definitely not this recognition that these other kind of being type folks are people. And From what the Clay's arc dude said, he was like enemies land food. So they're also not thinking of them as people.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, but they all are. So,
They are.
Same origin of folk genetically. Just one of them got a little like extraterrestrial in there.
Bye, Emma. Hello and goodbye. Okay, let's see some questions. Just started chapter 6. What is the importance of the clay arcs in this novel? Thank you for that question, Alicia, and you're welcome to join us. One of the things I've been asking myself is what is the, like, how, okay, so just to be clear, because I think I've gotten something wrong. But you know, when we meet like Jacob and the Sphinx like children from Clay's arc, are those clay arcs?
Yes.
Okay. Because they were like beautiful and cute and strong and coordinated and smart. And then I'm like, are those the clay arcs that we're all like scared of and we now hate? But they were so amazing in Clay's arc. So that is surprising to me. And then I wonder, like, why did Octavia E. Butler give us this picture of this interaction between Teray and this Clay arc, who's like, I know your dad, right? Like, why did we just get that moment, right? This potentially quote unquote humanizing moment. So what is the importance of clay arcs in this novel?
To me, they are the most important, because if you think of people outside of the pattern as less, and then think as people that are mute as even less, the clay arcs are way down on that hierarchy. People don't even see them as human. They see them as animalistic, as other, as something that only can get the negative characteristics. So I think, to me, that when you're on the other side, when you see them and understand that they're fighting for their family, they have their own way of life, it's that duality is very interesting to me. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
It does. I had a bunch of thoughts at one time. And Jerry, you answer first.
Okay. I think the importance of the clay arcs is to remind us, like, I feel like Octavia E. Butler seduced us into accepting a story about the clay arcs, because we got a very different vantage point in Survivor, and then, you know, we're now in this book where we see them, you know, the clay arc disease, right? Like they have become a species, right? A separate species, and something now, like a race, a subhuman race, effectively. But I think she's now reminding us that, you know, these are constructions. These are social constructions. You can choose to abide by them or not. And I think I agree with you, Sarah, that the clay arcs are the most important. And from just building off of Walida Imarisha, and I forget the other person she worked with on this, but they created this framework called visionary fiction. And one of the principles is, you know, whenever you're reading speculative, make sure that you're thinking about the point of view of the most marginalized character, the most marginalized group. So I'm thinking about the most marginalized clay arcs, and they're just like trying to get by, and they're seen as violent and petulant and unintelligent and all of these things, which many of our communities have been characterized as. And I feel like we get these glimpses where we're encouraged to not go along with the narrative of what and who the clay arcs are. But I'm still struggling a little bit with like their role, their importance, and all of those things. But I just noticed that there's a humanization, quote unquote, of the clay arcs in this book, that there wasn't in Survivor, and that there was in Clay's arc. That's it.
Yeah. I agree with what both of you have said. And I just, okay, so I have a couple of thoughts and I wrote them down so I would remember. And so I'll try to keep it brief because y'all know I can be long-winded. One, I think it does, for me, it calls out this idea around that I see a lot in like sci-fi and fantasy, where it's like a people can be a people without them having to be human. Because I wouldn't say the Clay's arc people are human because of the whole extraterrestrial thing, but whatever, we can get into that some other time. But they are a people, and that doesn't make them any less deserving of like life and stuff. So it's like this, I don't subscribe to the like you have to be human to have the right to like to life, and you can't be a people unless you are human, unless you have human qualities. And I think that there is a humanization of them in this book, and I think oftentimes to get people to allow space for other like types of beings to have valid existence, they have to be humanized. So it's like they can relate. We have to be able to relate to them. And honestly, there is a lot of human kind of similarities because of their origin story, right? And their difference, I don't think makes them any less of a people, but it is in this. So that's highlighted in the story because we're no longer seeing each other as people. We're no longer seeing what we have in common. And just othering. And then it's like, of course, you don't have I'm gonna kill you on sight. Okay, they really took on sight to like the realest of meanings. And then, which leads me to my other one. I thought it was interesting because they have othered them. They aren't considered people. And like Sarah was saying, they're they're thought to be very below the patternist. Yeah. However, y'all have clearly been in a war with them for years, and they're clearly encroaching more and more on your territory. So at the very least, I feel like they should be acknowledged as equal, right? Yeah. Like that don't make sense to me that you've continued to fed yourself this narrative and you're not actually like clearly what you're doing and what you're saying, it's not matching up with the facts. Mm-hmm. And you should probably start being more strategic and learn more about these people. So at the very least, you can beat them. Like y'all this don't even make sense to me. And then lastly, I think they're going to be very important. I want to see what happens with, the Clay arc people in their own right, but also I think they're going to be very instrumental into whatever Teray's character arc is, right? Because even before he meets the one that he had that conversation, what we get to see his first interactions with that Jackson, I think his name was, the original mute herder, which I hate the term. But you see that he has this compassion. He has ideas of what's right and wrong. And he also is like, you ain't gonna punk me though. So it's gonna be, I think, I see kind of what his mother had hoped for them in him. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be interesting to see the course of the rest of the book and the situations that they're put in, what happens. Because it's like, I think he's very fork in the road, not like already you are a terrible person, you think these things, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I think that he has the capacity for a lot of compassion and understanding, and being the fact that he even sat there and had that conversation. And you see at the end of 5 that he feels weird about the way they've killed, right? It's not, he's like, we never even got to see each other face to face. Like, I don't feel, this don't sit right in my spirit. But those are my 3 main thoughts.
Okay.
I tried to be short and I still wasn't. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. I am probably not going to be able to stay awake for another sprint, because I was like head bobbing, having to read like several paragraphs over. So I'm wondering if you feel like, my suggestion is that we answer the remaining questions in the chat. Folks can read chapter 6 on their own, and then tomorrow we'll start at chapter 7 at the regular scheduled 7 p.m. Eastern, and then finish together, which I always love doing. Is that okay with you guys?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So
it's 5 a.m. here.
I know. I'm like, I have a friend in Amsterdam, and I'm like, why are you even awake? And also, thank you for being awake, but bedtime. Yes. Okay. So, question for you guys: do you think Teray and Amber will be a Doro Anyanwu or Doro Mary type relationship? Jersey Frem, come on with the questions. There is an element to it, but it's interesting because Teray believes that he is like having to open to Amber, like she's manipulating him, right? Like she's kind of like, that felt good, right? Like it felt good to be like connected, right? And linked, right? Like you like that, right? You didn't even notice it, right? Don't you feel so relaxed? Like, you know that I know you better than you know yourself, right? Like, you know how close we are in the pattern, right? It's just you and me, right? You know that. And I'm just like, Amber, with your flex, like what? I also like, there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, Amber's a currency plant. She's gonna like kill him in the woods. So there's a part of me that's concerned. But yes, I do wonder about that. And it's interesting that Teray is vulnerable to Amber because he needs her, because she's got Wiley and he doesn't. So I think it's interesting, but it seems like there's a flip here, you know? So what do you guys think?
I think each of those Doro and Anyanu and Doro and Mary, those are really different dynamics. So I think there are elements of it, but I hope it goes a different way.
Yeah, I really hope not. I think also they have the most kind of equal sort of relationship out of these like 3 groupings that we're talking about. And I'm a little bit into chapter 6. So let me make sure I'm not about to say something that's not there. Yeah, I'm gonna keep what I was about to say. But they're a little bit more kind of even than those other 2 groups. So I really hope not. Also, I think something cooler could happen because OEB already showed us those 2 types of relationships. So I just want her to be nice to me and show me something else. It'll probably also be terrible, but because that's what she likes to do. She likes to make my stomach hurt, but different.
Yeah. Very fair. And I'm wondering if they'll come together to make necessary changes between Patternist, Mutes, and Clayarchs just based off the heart of Teray. I wonder how this will net out in the end. We will see. We will test your theory. You're wondering. Yes, Sherry, you can play Call of Duty all you want when you're 10 years old, but God forbid you hear the word sex ever. Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, what?
Tamara, just starting 4. Did currency making Teray a mute herder actually give Teray an advantage because he learned empathy and so learning the inner workings of the compound? These are good questions. Oops, I've lost.
I think he already had empathy, though. I will say that. I don't think he learned empathy. He already had it, and then he saw what was happening, and he was like, "Oh man, I guess I can't let this happen. Why would y'all just being quiet?" I think he just don't want to have to. He doesn't want to have to exert like that energy. So, but when he becomes aware, I feel like he does have like a conscience, so he like has to act.
Yeah, he definitely does.
But I do think it gave him an advantage in knowing what was going on the compound, though. So I definitely agree with that part.
I wish I could ask OEB if she wrote this series as a way of reclaiming the power dynamic that was used to keep enslaved Africans, or if she just wanted to get into the head of people who think of others as inhumane and uses that as a reason to treat them poorly. Yes, Kim, good questions. And she actually answers that in one of her interviews, which you can see on YouTube. I don't know which one, but she does talk about her reasons for, and she describes the Patternist series and her reasons for writing it. So the answer is out there. For those who think it,
I'll be searching later.
Yes. Or if I'm just super wrong on both points. You are not. Maria, I'm suspicious of the Clayarchs knowing about Royale, yes, and infecting him with somehow Caranti's doing. Whoa.
Wow.
But maybe I just really don't like Caranti. Well, you definitely don't like Caranti. Like we've established this, Maria. But yes, that gave me that bothered me. Yeah, it does sound good.
I've not thought about that. And part of that makes me like, that would be a good twist. And the other part is like, they're very capable on their own. So I don't want to make it seem like they have to, like, they would be just pawns and Caranti's like scheming.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that's interesting thought now that I'm having. Thank you for that.
I have concerns. It would be a fun twist if Amber was actually his sister and will fight him for the.
This is amazing.
Because they said Rayall had so many kids, like a bunch of kids, and nobody really took his name. So
who's Amber?
You don't know who his kids are. Amazing point. Thank you, ma'am. Bam. I've actually been wondering. I didn't go to that last part, like fight him for the pattern in the end. I didn't think that part through. But definitely, I'm like, I wonder why they're so close in the pattern. Right? Because it's like their ease of connection and the fact that he's had so many kids. Them kids don't know who their parents are. I mean, those two know, but they don't know who they connected to. And he barely knows anything about her. So
I might be on Team Amber.
I might be too. I like her. I know. But he also cheated his way into Jacqueline's mind, which led him to being more open. That is true. That is very, very much true. You have to hunt for the interview. Yes, you do. I know that this makes no sense, but there is a part of me that's like, is Amber on Yanwu? Like, I know Amber's not on Yanwu, but also, is Amber on Yanwu? Like, is it possible? Like the independence, the healer, the power, like, is it possible that Anyanwu was like, yeah, I'm back? And because this seems interesting. Like, this whole pattern.
Like, actually, I was just a dolphin again the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm back.
Yeah. And
I've died
centuries upon centuries later.
I like Amber better than Emma. And let's go see this Royale dude. How's this all going to work out?
I've died, I've reconsidered death, and I've decided I'm back.
Yes, exactly.
First of all, that sounds like something she's very capable of. I reconsidered. I changed my mind.
I just want to reconstitute myself because I just need to figure out what this whole pattern situation is. Oh my gosh, I know. I know.
No.
Why we have to add that last part in there? Wow.
Because Christina,
you can stay there.
You could have left that out of the room.
Yes, we do. There needs to be a fan fiction, something like a patternist, like I don't know, online flash fiction, fan fiction situation.
Listen, I would love for one of y'all to write me a fanfic,
Oh,
and I really do the alternate universe ones. So let's pit, but somebody else gonna have to write it because that's not my skill set. I will read it though.
Yes, I would love that if she decided that all her children screwed stuff off too much and now she had to come. Serious, mama's coming home. I think it'd be funny if Amber was somehow a Clayark and screws up. Oh my God, because of people. Wow. We've all just jumped into the deep end, and I'm here for it. All right, friends. Your girl is like, I am. What do they say? I'm like ready to be like, and so.
It would be so funny if you fell asleep.
Yeah, on camera. Thank you very much, Sherry. Thank you very much, Sarah, for being here. This was awesome. Thank you, everybody who read in the chats. And it was actually like, I like 3 sessions. I like it's feeling good. I also like that many of us are pacing, and that by like just kind of saying, okay, can you just be at the start of chapter 7 tomorrow? It provides a little structure, a little bit more of a structure. So folks, like, just think about the different ways that we've done the slow read and what you like and what you don't like, because I want to take that into consideration when we move on to the next series. And for tomorrow, for those who are watching the rewatch and for those who are in the chat, tomorrow's going to be like a party because we're going to be finishing the series and the book. So come ready, come with your sparkly things, like, you know what I mean? Like, get ready. It's going to be great. And please consider joining, because this streamer can hold up to 10 people. And I just think it would be really wild for all of us to read together. So like Kim, Maria, Jersey Fam, like Tamara, everybody, it'll be fun. Okay, is there anything else that anybody wants to say before we go? Good night. Okay.
No, you've been lovely.
Are you going to sleep or are you up? Like, which side of what are you on?
I'm finishing the next chapter and then I'm going to sleep, because I've took a long nap, so I can wake up now, and I'm not sleepy yet. Okay. Thank God it's weekend.
Okay.
But thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Oh, of course, always. Thank you very much. Okay, everyone. Thank you, Sherry. Good night. Hope to see you tomorrow, Jersey Fam. And you're always welcome on. And read with purpose or sleep. Bye.
Bye.